since the true story about St. Patrick was so popular, I'm going to do follow-up video. Okay, so the vernal spring equinox happens 4 days after St. Patrick's Day. Okay, so basically that's all St. Patrick's Day is an indication of. Springtime is on its way. Spring happens March 21st every year, and St. Patrick's Day being 4 days earlier on March 17th, which was the day that Patrick had died, it lands closer to the vernal spring equinox than Passover, or the Catholic Passover, Easter, does, which means it's the first indication that springtime is upon us. So, yay, springtime is here. Unfortunately, the whole holidays is based on a bunch of bullshit. Okay, let's talk about the vernal spring equinox. So you got, there's the 4 seasons, right? The northern hemisphere has 4 seasons, and there's 4 important points, you know, of the 4 seasons. You got the vernal spring equinox, the autumn-fall equinox, and then you got the summer and the winter solstices. And so there's a scientific, logical, weather-based reason to celebrate each one of these points on the calendar. The vernal spring equinox, autumn-fall equinox, summer and winter solstices. So there's 4 seasons in the northern hemisphere. They correspond with those, and both the Celtic pagans and the Druids knew about these. So St. Patrick's Day makes sense if it's just a day of celebrating springtime, but if you're going to be celebrating St. Patrick, you know, basically you're celebrating the initiation of mass murder, where a genocidal, bloodthirsty, psychopathic, hypocritical, lying piece of shit named Waywin Sukat, aka Maginus, aka Patricius, aka Saint Patrick, began the Irish Peasant Inquisition. So Saint Patrick wasn't even a saint or Patrick, okay? He wasn't a Catholic saint, and his maiden name was something different. The Protestant Patricius, since he read and interpreted the Bible and biblical visions and personal revelation are Protestant hallmarks, stood opposed to the Catholic Church, but just like Lupercalia with Valentine's Day, Saturnalia with Christmas, Passover with Easter, plus the Egyptian pagan gods and goddesses imagery, rituals, and symbols with Jesus Christ, the Catholic Church co-opted St. Patrick as one of their own. So Patricius, who died 1507, 1539, 1553 years ago, perhaps March 17th, 461 AD, maybe not, is when he died. Depends on which unreliable source you want to believe. So St. Patrick has been adorned with centuries of lies, mythology, and blarney. St. Patricius was neither a saint nor was he a Patricius. Patricius' autobiographical confessions and his letter to Coroticus, which was an indignant letter to a slave-driving marauder named Coroticus, are the only 2 historical documents that we have about the non-saint, non-Patrick St. Patrick. Patricius, originally named Maywin Sukat, was born 387 AD in Beneventa, Berniae, B-E-R-N-I-A-E, Berniae, or Maywin Sukat was born along the banks of River Clyde in Roman Britain, which is now part of Scotland, or maybe Patricius was born in Britain, maybe in Wales, Banwin, Dulias Valley, D-U-L-A-I-S Valley, around 385 AD, 387, 385, maybe in Kilpatrick, near Dumbarton. Anyways, out of all those theoretical places where St. Patrick was said to have been born, none of them are in Ireland. So the so-called patron saint of Ireland wasn't even Irish. Patricius, his parents were Romans. They were named Calpurnius and Conchessa. So you got Calpurnius as the man's name, but who could tell? Calpurnius and Conchessa were wealthy Romans. Patricius' father was a wealthy Roman clerical patriarch who owned lots of houses, land, and slaves, and he was basically living in Roman Britain as a landlord, being in charge of the colonies. So he was, you know, his father was the main oppressor. And then, so let's see, there's talk about where he actually came from: Scotland, Wales, maybe even Italian, since his parents were Roman officials, but he was not, he wasn't Irish. So when Patricius was 16, you had seafaring raiders. So the Irish pirates. You had Irish pirates who came and captured Patrick and carried him to Ireland and sold him into slavery. And then when Patricius was kidnapped, his low civil service Roman officer father was also murdered. So he's kidnapped, his father's murdered, and his sister's kidnapped too. And we never hear actually what happens to her. At the age of 16 in 403 A.D., Patricius is captured and enslaved by Irish pirates, sent to Ireland to serve as a slave herder tending sheep in Dalriada, Dalriada. After Patricius arrived in Ireland, he went to work as a slave for an Irish chieftain named Milcho. Okay, so Milcho is this Druidic priest. So he was captured by pirates, and then he's taken into Ireland, and he's a slave for this Druidic priest named Milcho. And while he's a slave, he's herding sheep, so he's a shepherd, just like Jesus, right? Herding sheep and cattle on Slemish Mountain, which is located in County Antrim of modern Northern Ireland. The atheist pagan, now turned Christian Patricius spent 6 lonely years herding sheep, and according to himself, he prayed 100 times a day. In a dream, God told Patricius that he had to escape. Patricius escaped captivity after hearing a voice urging him to travel to a distant port where a ship would be waiting to take him back to Britain. On his way, which it was there, right? He heard a voice. God told him there was going to be a ship there. Bam, there's a ship right there. On his way back to Britain, St. Patricius was captured again and spent 60 days in captivity in Tours, France. During his short captivity within France, Patricius learned about French monasticism, the belief in one God, right? At the end of his, I think that's what it is, monasticism, whatever. At the end of his second captivity, St. Patricius had a vision of Victorious giving him the quest of bringing Christianity to Ireland. The Irish people begged him to return and minister to them. We asked thee, boy, come and walk among us once more, he recalls in the confession. He studied for the priesthood in France, and then he made his way back to Ireland. Patricius was reported to have performed many miracles, even more miracles than Jesus Christ himself. Okay, so that's the background story. That's who he was. He got kidnapped, comes back, right? Gets kidnapped, escapes, and then wants to go back to Ireland to Christianize them, to get his people back. So he, one good way to get his people back, just perform miracles, right? Just all these magic tricks. So Patricius himself even admitted in his confessions that he was able to rise 33 dead bodies up from the dead. You know, so that's incredible. Those 33 dead bodies were brought back alive again, but he's really humble about it. So in Patricius, I think this is in his confessions, he says, the Lord has given me, though humble, the power of working miracles among a barbarous people, such as are not recorded to have been worked by the great apostles. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, I have raised from the dead bodies that have been buried many years, but I beseech you, let no one believe that for these or the like works I am to be at all equal to the apostles, or with any perfect man, since I am humble and a sinner, and worthy only to be despised. So even Patrick knew that he was a fucking despicable fucking sinner, right? And he was definitely a person worthy of being despised. To be able to resurrect the dead, Patricius had to have been a great magician or a liar or a very advanced doctor. The only way I know how to bring folks back to life is with a defibrillator, right, which shocks the heart back into operation again. But there weren't defibrillators back then, so I call bullshit on that. Patricius didn't raise 33 people from the dead. That's some bullshit. That's a lie. Patricius has been reported to have raised up from the dead an assortment of women, children, brothers, sisters, princesses and princes, but not all the princesses. Patricius also brought back a horse and a giant back to life, so he was able to bring animals back to life too. But the giant was immediately put to death after his resurrection, which, you know, it's kind of sad. The story says that he came to a Neolithic tomb, which was thought to be a giant's grave, and to satisfy his followers' curiosity, he raised the giant from the dead. Then he baptized the giant, and then he sent the giant back into his grave. So it was a, you know, short-lived Christian life this giant had, but it was able to convince other people that, you know, Patrick is the one, right? He can do these miracles, so clearly we need to follow this man. We don't need to be Druids anymore. We need to be Christians, right, because of all these miracles. The innumerable folk tales recount how he faced down kings, personally talked to God, a black woman, as well as tricked and slaughtered Ireland's reptiles, snakes, and dragons. Patricius is a very miraculous man. Another great miracle of Patricius was when Patricius was traveling with some sailors on land after they docked their ship in Britain. They had trouble finding enough to eat while crossing through a desolate area of land. The captain of the ship on which Patricius had sailed asked Patricius to pray for the group to find food, since Patricius had told him that God was all-powerful. Patricius told the captain that nothing was impossible for God, and he prayed for food right away. Miraculously, a herd of pigs appeared after Patricius finished praying in front of where the group of men was standing. Right there, you know, right? Basically, the pigs was like, hey, can you eat us? And they almost cooked themselves. I mean, that's how powerful this God was. The sailors caught, killed the pigs, they ate them. The food sustained them until they were able to leave the area and find more food. Patricius, when he first came to Dublina, and Dublina is modern-day Dublin, right? When he come to Dublin, he caused a fountain to spring up in Dublina, right? So it's incredible. He's able to cause water just to shoot up from the water, right? He caused a fountain to spring up. When Patricius arrived to find King Echu dead, Patricius resurrected King Echu, instructed him on the ways of Christianity, and then baptized him. So he was able to bring King Echu back to life, right? Patricius has healed and brought back to life several mad cows owned by his aunt. So he's bringing back horses back to life, cows back to life, giants back to life. He's bringing anything and everything back to life, really. All the farm animals, at least. He doesn't really give a shit about the Druids or the native Irish people, which we'll find out in a second. When Patricius' sister slipped and fell and received a death blow to the head, he made the sign of the cross on her forehead, and she awoke, and then from then on bore that white cross on her forehead. So, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag. You know, now she was brought back to life, but she's got to walk around with a white cross on her forehead forever. But she slipped and fell, her head was banged. And, you know, Patricius probably would have beat the shit out of her if she didn't keep the paint on her forehead. Patricius personally stopped the flood with his pinky finger, right? He was just like, hey, stop, flood. And the flood stopped, right? So Patrick, what a man, you know, what an incredible and just all-powerful, you know, way more powerful than Jesus. Patrick is incredible. Patricius even banished the she-beast Caoranach, C-A-O-R-A-N-A-C-H, Caoranach. It's a she-beast. He banished this she-beast to an island in the middle of Lougderg in Donegal, L-A-U-G-H-D-E-R-G, in Donegal, D-O-N-E-G-A-L. And I think that was recently dug up. That's why I went through all of that, because it's either the two princesses. He's going to murder two princesses here coming up, right? Patrick, what a great fucking dude, man. He murders fucking princesses. Anyways, he goes, he banished the she-beast, Caoranach, to an island in the middle of Lougderg and Donegal, and they actually think that that was a human, that was a person that, you know, was clearly an enemy, and so he banished the she-beast. So is there an actual body of some fucking weird monster, or did he just kill a fucking woman and then hide her out there? Sometimes Patricius' baptism didn't go well, and when he murdered two princesses right after they were baptized, that was one of those times. So, you know, oops. Patricius caused two young princesses to die at the Ogula well, O-G-U-L-L-A well, aka the Cleobach well, C-L-I-A-B-A-C-H. Two sisters, Ethne and Fidelm, E-I-T-H-N-E and F-E-D-E-L-M. So Ethne and Fidelm. So you had Ethne and Fidelm were washing themselves in the nude at the royal center at sunrise when St. Patricius came upon them. Ethne and Fidelm questioned Patricius about God, and they listened attentively to what Patrick had to say. Patricius recited the Holy Creed to them. Then the sick bastard Patricius told them that the only way they could see God is after death. So the sick bastard Patrick, he baptized them, then he killed them, and then he buried them back in the Ugala well, the aka Cleobach well. That's St. Patrick. This is the shit you guys are fucking celebrating in 2 days from now, right? Yeah, he murdered these two princesses. He was able to resurrect many dead people back to life, except for those two princesses, Ifni and Fidelm. Ifni and Fidelm were not resurrected. Also, when it came to the native Irish pagans, the Druids, and other Irish people, if they didn't convert to Christianity, Patricius didn't give a shit about their lives either. That's when the Irish Inquisition happened, where hundreds, thousands, maybe even 6 million Irish were genocided.